Hey, it's V with 85th and Wade. Thanks for joining me today. Now, today we're going to talk about what I believe to be my best garment make yet. Now, I know just about every month I say I have a favorite for that month, and those are still the favorites for that month. However, I have to say that this dress, hands down, is my absolute favorite, the best garment I've made to date. So we're talking about Vogue 1723. Now this is an evening wear dress. And I'll put a picture up as well of the envelope. It comes in two different lengths, just above the knee, and then of course your longer floor length version. I made view A, the shorter length. Now, in terms of ease, I will say that this is a very easy pattern. Vogue calls it an easy pattern, and I do agree. I'll tell you about my sewing experience, about the fabric I use, and then pop up some pictures throughout. But just know, once you're done with this, you're gonna want to just head to the store, head to the website, grab this pattern, and make it up as soon as you possibly can. Okay, so about my sewing experience, I would say that I thoroughly enjoyed my sewing experience with this dress. There wasn't any time that I was confused or wasn't quite sure what to do, how to do it. So I would agree with Vogue that this is an easy make. It's a simple-ish make in that it only has 6 pattern pieces, although technically there are a total of 8 pieces to put together. So what do I mean by that? You have your front cut twice, you have your back cut twice, you have a sleeve and a sleeve stay, you have your collar, and then you have your ties. So there are 6 pattern pieces. However, it asks you to line the dress, so then you have to cut the front and the back again twice. Now, I didn't use a lining, I was short on time, so I just did facings. I did look up a few YouTube videos to teach me about how to make a facing. And actually 2 people that I follow, Rochelle from Rochelle Handmade Designs and Talisha from Creativity by T, they both did, Rochelle created how to make a facings video. Talisha, who actually also made this dress, used a facing as well. And so she talked about that in her video, and I'll link both of those below. And there were a few others that I used in order to make sure I was, cutting everything out correctly and figuring that all out. So know that if there any time you have a lining or a pattern calls for a lining and you're not interested in that, there are some great YouTube videos here to teach you how to create a lining instead. So all in all, I had a total of 8 pieces to put together, which included the front and back facings. As far as notions, the only thing you'll need is a hook and eye. So, no buttons, no zippers or anything like that. Now, in terms of time, I'll say that it probably took me about 3 to 4 hours over the course of a couple of days to put this together. And the reason for that is because I took my time. I had the perfect pattern with the perfect fabric match, and I wanted to make sure everything ran smoothly. So I took my time. Because I use a woven fabric, I actually went in and serged all the raw edges, which means that I usually clip my notches, so I had to go in and make, markings with chalk. So that took a little extra time to do all that, but it was so worth it. I was so happy with the outcome. Again, because I didn't use a lining, but I wanted the inside to have a very clean finish, I went ahead and serged everything. So that took a little bit of time. If you're not into, the facings or, serging all of your raw edges, I would say it would probably take you a couple of hours to sew it from start, first stitch to, wearing the garment, about a couple of hours. And that's because you're not serging everything. It's pretty much enclosed. And so you don't have to do all of that work. And because of the number of pattern pieces and there is some repetition there for the front and back, you'll be able to zip through that fairly quickly. So again, I do agree with Vogue that this is an easy pattern. It just took me a little extra time to put it together. I would say it's also a pretty good beginner's pattern in that the only two things I would think that, would be new or a new skill build would be doing the sleeve stay, which isn't difficult at all. It's just a little repetition with, the outside sleeve and the inside sleeve, and then putting on a hook and eye, which mandates hand stitching. Spoiler alert, I did not do hook and eye, and I'll tell you why later. But all in all, a great pattern. I used Ankara fabric. I forget what they used on the pattern, but it was more of a silky type. So, there's lots of opportunities to kind of play around with fabric in terms of, what look you're going for and whether you want the long version or the short version. So if you have a special event coming up or just a date night and you want to look fantastic, I definitely recommend this pattern. As far as the fabric, as I mentioned, I use Ankara fabric. And so I visited my local African-owned shop, which also sells fabric, and they have a ton of fabric. I knew I wanted something that was special because this was for my parents' milestone anniversary celebration. And so I didn't want to go all out, but I wanted to look very nice for it. And so I did like the pattern of the fabric, the envelope used, which I'm not a florals person, or at least I wasn't. So, that was a little different for me to be, attracted to florals. But I figured, it looked great on that model in terms of that fabric or that pattern with the dress. And so I wanted something that was similar. So I went into the shop. And, there are tons and tons of patterns in Ankara fabric, but I wanted something that had more of a true floral look to it. So, maybe not as abstract, but actually looked like a flower. And so I came upon about 3 or 4 different fabrics and narrowed it down to this one. Now, that was the first reason I picked up this fabric. The second reason is because, can you see the sheen in that? The sheen on that gold? I was like, oh, this takes it up just a little bit in terms of, evening wear. So I was quite pleased about that. So I grabbed this up. I grabbed 6 yards of it. I think I only used about 3 yards or so for this dress. And I had enough to make a second garment. So I went ahead and just laid everything out. That's why I'm not really sure exactly how much fabric I used for the dress, because I just went ahead, cut out the second garment that I wanted to use for it and just laid it all out on the 6 yards. So that way I knew I made sure I had enough for both garments. But I would say about 3 to 4-ish yards or so of fabric for the short version that I made. And so with this dress, and that fabric, I was quite pleased. Like I said, I wanted to take my time and get it as perfect as possible. So with this fabric, as you see, it has the voluminous sleeves on it. Now, the one mistake I made, and it didn't even dawn on me because I was thinking, oh, it's on the inside, no one is going to see it. And that was the sleeve stay. So I have quite a bit of quilting fabric, so I knew I had enough to do the sleeve stay here, so I didn't go and look for a matching fabric for the garment. However, for some reason, I used white. And so when I'm wearing the dress and my arms are down, of course, no one sees the white. However, I'm at an anniversary celebration. We are going to dance, okay? And so as I raised the roof, yeah, you could see the white stay inside the dress. So I was a little bummed about that. And, it's a lesson learned for me to know, always match the fabric, regardless of if I think I or anybody else is going to see it. Just go ahead and match it as best you can. So that's the only, I guess, downside of the dress that I have. But if that's the only downside, I still feel it was a perfect dress for me. Okay. So in terms of the dress, again, we have the front, and I was a little hesitant about how the front was because it is on the fold. I'm sorry, it is cut in two. And it was like, oh, that's gonna, kind of disrupt my my flowers, and I didn't want to do too much fussy cutting, but I said we're just going to go with it. It was busy enough to hopefully it wouldn't be too noticeable, and I think it turned out okay. So, and again, didn't have time to try to do mental gymnastics of how to, cut it on the fold and then take out the extra that, the sides, the seams would be for both halves of it, and making sure the collar would still fit perfectly. So it was just like, nope, we're just going to go by the instructions and keep it moving. So I did that, just went ahead and cut it, and put it together, and I think it turned out okay. The collar does not call for interfacing. And I thought about that before I even put it together. Like, I would like to have a stiffer collar, because while the sleeves are certainly statement sleeves, the collar is too, in terms of a statement. And I wanted it to have, some structure to it. And by the end of the night, it was pretty folded. So I figure I can, next time I make this, make sure I use a good interfacing, or if you're interested, use a good interfacing so it does have, the ability to keep its structure if you're going to be moving around or dancing or whatever, that it stays up pretty nice. Now, it does have the ties, and one would think that, oh, well, the tie in the back, if you tie it tight enough, in a bow, that, maybe that'll keep its structure. But I think just with the weight of the tie, the bow in the back, it kind of pulls it down a little bit. So just having that structure, I think next time I make the dress, I'll keep that in mind to do that. As far as the sleeve stays, again, like I said, it's not very difficult. It's just two sleeve pieces that are different sizes that you're putting together. So no big deal about that whatsoever. Now, I miscounted in my pattern pieces, and I just realized that because there is a seventh pattern piece, and that is the pocket. It does have pockets on the side of the dress, so that is awesome. So you don't have to, again, do any gymnastics to try to figure out how and where to put a pocket. The dress already has pockets, but you can certainly leave it out if that's not a look that you want it to go for. Because this dress pattern, or because the fabric is busy, it's not as noticeable on the side. But I would think that if, yes, you used a solid pattern or solid fabric, that you definitely would see the pockets. So that's something you can keep or leave out depending on your preference. So all in all, the pattern was great. The fabric that matched this pattern, to me, was awesome, and I felt absolutely fabulous in this dress. Now, I mentioned I made a second garment. I actually cut it out. I haven't finished it yet. It's on the, to-do list. But I also made a face mask to go with the dress, because I'm a face mask wearer. I am not ashamed to say, every time I leave my house to go into anybody's establishment or to be around, any number of folks, I wear a mask. It's what I do. So I don't judge people who do or don't. So I would appreciate you not judging me in the comments. But I did want to make a mask. And of course, I made the mask with the fabric. So I guess technically I had three garments out of this 6 yards. And I still have a little bit more. I debated on whether I was going to make another watch band, not to wear with the dress. That would absolutely too much. But just because I really like the fabric watch bands that I've been making. But I figured I had enough maybe to make something else. So I'll just keep it off to the side and figure out what that is later. But I do have enough to make something crafty. Like, it's definitely not enough for a full garment. And maybe not even color blocking anywhere in a garment, but just something crafty to use with the final pieces that I have. But all in all, I'll have to say, again, my best make ever. Certainly so far, my best make for the month of August, a very simple pattern. It says that it's complements all body shapes. I don't have the finished garment measurements, but because they aren't listed on the back of the envelope, but I would say because it's a very, generous cut of a dress, that if you're not a 8 to 24 size US, that still open up the envelope if you can at the store, look at the pattern pieces to find those finished garment measurements, just to see if there's the possibility for you to still be able to wear and make and wear the garment, because again, it is a very free flowing garment. So with all that, I would say stamp of approval, 5 stars and all of that for this garment. I was excited before I made it, as I was making it, and certainly when I was wearing it. And yeah, whenever somebody said, "Oh, I like your dress," I said, "Thanks, I made it." Like, I was super, super, super proud of my accomplishments, and I needed everybody to know that. At any rate, let me know what you think about, the garment, about the pattern, about, the fabric itself. If you've made this pattern, if you have it in your stash, if you're going to grab it the next time Vogue patterns go on sale. Again, it's still in the drawers. It's in the book. It's definitely on the website, and I'll link that below. Check it out. Let me know. Let me know what you think. Okay, so this is editing B. Injecting some more footage. So I totally forgot to say why I did not use the hook and eye on the back. We all know I'm not into hand sewing, so I try to find an alternative just about every single time I can to not have to do hand stitching. Well, in this case, again, because I was short on time, I figured when I tried the dress on that, one, the bow is long enough to where, or the ties of the bow is long enough to where they lay on top of the back of the dress where the opening is, so that covers it. And then two, my hair is long enough to cover the ties that cover the opening, that I do not have to do the hook and eye. So I will most likely put something there. So I don't know if that's going to be like an inside loop, like a chain loop, and then a button on the inside to kind of keep that together. Or just go ahead and do a hook and eye now that I'm, finished with it, and maybe as I'm sitting watching TV or doing something else, listening to a book, that I'll just go ahead and hand stitch that on there. But as far as the closure is concerned, it was like not needed when I needed to wear this dress for the first time. Also, while I'm thinking about it, I am wearing Simplicity 9550. It's a new pattern for 2022, I believe. It's a Mimi G pattern. It comes with a top and some shorts. And I just made the top of it. I used a skirt from a different pattern, but this is Simplicity 9550. I actually have a video where I talk a little bit more about it. I'll make sure to link that at the end, but just know I did not use the hook and eye because I was not doing the hand sewing or the hand stitching, and that's the reason why. Until next time, thanks so much for walking through life with me on this sewing journey, and I'll see you next time. Bye.